So this is just a little video talking about my thoughts on the Dragon Ball Super superhero movie I recently went to see in the cinema. This will contain major spoilers for the entire film. There's a lot of good and not so good in my opinion, so this video won't be overall positive or negative. It might also be different from the general online consensus, which I haven't really looked much into. The flashback at the start of the film with the Red Ribbon Army was nice as a reminder for us fans and as a catch-up for those who didn't watch the original Dragon Ball series. It was drawn in a beautiful 2D style that looked both fresh and vintage, updating it to modern standards, while still triggering feelings of nostalgia. I'll discuss my thoughts on the rest of the film's art style later in the video. This intro scene also gave added details on Dr. Gero's family tree. I'm not sure if it was already common knowledge that Gero had a son who looks like Android 16, and I assume inspired his design, but it was new and very interesting information for me. If I'm remembering correctly, the proper film then starts showing the villains, some classic Red Ribbon Army guys like Magenta and a new character, Dr. Hedo, who is Dr. Gero's genius grandson. So I'm going to use this opportunity to talk about the villains of the film, and that includes those who end up not really being villains at the end. Villains can be the strongest part of a story, but I felt like they were quite weak in this film overall. For me, they were all just okay, with only one being outright bad. Dr. Hedo was okay. It was interesting of them to include Dr. Gero's grandson with his genius mindset and the design of his eyes both adding to his threatening nature. But he was more of a joke character than a truly sinister one, especially when in his superhero suit. That's fine, considering he wasn't really a villain and believed in his own ideas of justice. But I do feel like Dragon Ball goes overboard with its gag characters and silly moments sometimes, especially in Super. While the comedic moments in this film were often genuinely funny, it still feels totally different from my favourite Dragon Ball era, which is early to mid Dragon Ball Z. But of course that's just personal preference. His two Gamma androids didn't look bad, but a bit too generic for me. I think they looked too similar to recent characters like Hit and Jiren. Plus they looked exactly the same as each other, or so I thought, because I only literally just now realised that they have a different number of fins on their head. I would have preferred if they looked a bit more different, even if it was just a simple recolor, although a totally different design would have made them more interesting to me. I found it difficult to tell which one I was looking at. I just had to focus on the number on their suit. Speaking of which, I don't really like the whole superhero aesthetic Dragon Ball often brings in, ever since the Great Saiyaman saga, which is where I think DBZ starts to go majorly downhill. They also didn't display any particularly interesting abilities to me. All I really remember is them shooting with a gun. But as much as I'm saying negative points, I didn't dislike the characters. I just didn't really feel anything towards them. They were made a bit more interesting by having been manipulated by the Red Ribbon Army to believe that the Z Fighters were the bad guys, before realising the truth and helping them out. The stories about Capsule Corp and the Z Fighters being evil aliens were also quite hilarious. The only villain I really disliked was Cell Max. When he first got mentioned, it sounded like a silly and unnecessary idea to bring him back just for a quick movie. But I admit I was interested in how he would look and act, especially in terms of his verbal interactions with other characters, which I always found to be one of Cell's strong points. But I was disappointed when he turned out to be a huge, bulky, generic, shouty monster with zero personality, and what I thought was a bad look overall. I really felt that the shades of green and red used clashed and looked like a 10-year-old's Microsoft Paint drawing of a made-up Cell transformation. On top of that, as a huge martial arts fan who lost the fight scenes in Dragon Ball series that are closer to kung fu movies than big smashing monster battles, him being a big smashing monster meant nobody could have a proper fast-paced hand-to-hand fight with him, like the characters did with him in Dragon Ball Z. Now I'll talk about the main heroes. Goku, Vegeta and Broly training was quite a fun sequence, nothing too special, but it showed more of one thing I hate about Dragon Ball Super. Goku seems to be portrayed as way more stupid and annoying than he ever was before. In DBZ he was a little goofy, but always knew when to get serious, and he was really clever when it came to combat. But here he didn't even understand what Vegeta was trying to do when meditating on his combat efficiency based on what he learnt from Jiren, which Goku should have picked up on since he fought Jiren more than Vegeta did. Otherwise, I didn't mind that Broly didn't do any fighting because we only recently had a huge dose of him in the previous film, which I loved. Another thing I dislike about recent Dragon Ball is what I thought was going to happen with this film, Goku and Vegeta always coming to save the day instead of letting the other heroes keep the spotlight. But this film faked me out in a good way. Firstly with a trailer, where I remember seeing Goku throw attacks, which made me assume that he would be defeating the end villain. And secondly, in the film itself, with the focus on Goku and Vegeta training. But then it became a film about Piccolo and Gohan, and it stayed that way all the way to the end, which surprised me in the best way possible. I've always wanted Piccolo to transform, and always thought it should have happened after the Cell Saga, but I don't really like how Orange Piccolo looks. His arms being different shades of orange to the rest of the body makes it look like he's got an uneven tan while holidaying in Spain. His square jaw makes him look overly bulky and slow, or like some random security guard henchman type character, or white Putin. It didn't feel like Piccolo to me. Then becoming a giant kaiju just made it feel like more smashy monster battling and less martial arts, which just isn't my preference for Dragon Ball. Despite all this, I'm just really happy that Piccolo got a transformation at all, and that he was the main character of the film, without Goku and Vegeta having to swoop in. On the other hand, I love Gohan's transformation. I've seen a lot of people complaining about the huge hair and the similarity to Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, but Gohan vs Cell was always my favourite part of Dragon Ball Z growing up, so the similar aesthetics appeal to me. The colour choices are also great, with the white or silver hair and red eyes that match his red belt, and the purpley blue aura matching his clothes. I don't think I changed anything about the visual design of this Gohan transformation, but I did find out that Akira Toriyama decided to name it Gohan Beast, which I think doesn't really suit it, and sounds more like what you would call Cell Max or Orange Piccolo. They're much more beast-like. While I'm glad they both transformed, I wish they both could have had a proper fight where they displayed more of their strengths and new abilities, kind of like how Janemba's devil form showed off a myriad of cool, unique moves, and Gogeta later throws his new Soul Punisher move at him. It was great that Gohan used Special Beam Cannon though, partly as a tribute to his childhood master, but especially since its precise nature was a smart way of hitting Cell without catching Piccolo in a crossfire. I think it would have also been cool if he'd invented a Special Beam Kamehameha, but I guess that wouldn't have been so precise. I like that the film was quite streamlined, in that it didn't tend to bring in characters that wouldn't have added anything to this particular film. If they brought in absolutely everyone, many of those characters would have just been wasted, relegated to the sideline for gags. We did have some gag moments, like with the two alien characters from the Broly film whose names I forgot, becoming Beerus's chef and, surprisingly, love interest. But those gags didn't linger, plus they're new characters, so it's good for them to get some development. As for the film's art style, I didn't like it when I watched the trailers, but during the film I did get used to it, and I saw its strengths, mainly in the fight scenes. It's easier to understand what's going on in some of the overpowered, fast-paced action of the film when you're getting, 360-degree shots around the characters as they fly around doing craziness. It's also great to try something new sometimes, but I don't think I would want this to become the new standard art style for Dragon Ball. While I do still prefer 2D Dragon Ball overall, I specifically prefer the hand-drawn styles of early to mid Dragon Ball Z that really conveyed the personal touches of the artists that drew them. In general, I love the dusty, imperfect look of 90s anime over the minimalist, factory-produced looking, computerized art styles of modern anime, especially in early Dragon Ball Super. I thought the art did improve a lot in the Goku Black Saga though. That's all I really have to say about this film. I was considering talking about how I would redesign Piccolo's transformation, but I might save that for a future video about how I would redo the Dragon Ball series as a whole, because if it was up to me, he would have transformed much earlier and differently. If even just one person shows interest in seeing a video like that, then I'll be more likely to make it, but it would be a long one because there's a lot I would change after the Cell Saga. If you've watched this far, I appreciate it. I don't mind if nobody does, since this channel is mainly a personal portfolio for game design analysis work, music covers, and original music, but knowing someone is enjoying the content is always more motivating. If you like the music you're hearing right now, here's my first track I composed, called Life Within the Water, which you can check out on this channel. Thanks for watching.